This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
The Matt McNeil Show. Filling in today, Greg Bakun. Thank you. Welcome. Happy Thursday, July 25th. Whoa, it's warm outside. My goodness.
I saw the weather report. I think the hottest 2 weeks of the year could be on their way, which I am not looking forward to.
It's August. That's what August does to you, doesn't it? It's all about that.
Yeah, I still don't want to look forward to it, though.
No, you don't have to. We live in a society where you don't have to look forward to that sort of thing. Folks, my name is Greg Bakun, and I'm filling in for Matt McNeil today and tomorrow. And Patrick is kind of like sitting in the chair for Johnny Carson. I mean, this is the big time for me, you know?
Right? That's pretty awesome. Congratulations. I know it's something you've been looking forward to for a while, to finally get to sit in David Letterman's chair over there, as you were saying, or Johnny Carson, or whichever of your late-night hosts you prefer.
Whoever, as long as it's not Jimmy Fallon. Okay, well, now I put the line in the sand there, so...
Well, you can cross one guest off our list who will never appear on this show.
Yeah. Sorry for everyone who was hoping for Jimmy Fallon. We're broadcasting on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950, as well as WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. Thank you very much for listening today, and thank you very much for giving me a chance and hearing what I have to say. If you have anything you want to talk about during the program, you can call in 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. Today on the program, in the second half hour, I'm going to bring on a gentleman by the name of Randy West. And Randy is a broadcast historian. He's also been the voiceover on many game shows, one of them being a little show called The Price is Right. And he's just has such knowledge of all things that I really want to talk with him and get a little bit lay of land when it comes to all things broadcast. I'm excited to talk with him, and we'll be talking about his book as well that is out now, which is called TV Inside Out: Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. And boy, Patrick, there's nothing more that I like than having to say a lot of F words, hoping that there's no mistakes happening. You know what I mean? My goodness, could you make it any less FCC friendly?
Oh, I could think of a few ways.
Yeah, no kidding. So for those of you who don't know who I am a host here on AM 950. I do a nightly radio program at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time called Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakun. It is a paranormal show. It is talking about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, so much more. Think of that old Leonard Nimoy series called In Search Of. That's kind of what I do. I bring on a lot of guests. We talk about a lot of interesting subjects. You don't have to agree with all of it, but it's a lot of fun. Like I said, that's local on AM 950 at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and very excited. Hopefully, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, please tune in, check it out. But what's interesting, Patrick, is that Ghostbox Radio is very respite of politics. I don't talk about it all. It's a way to get away from what's going on out there. But, today we kind of want to talk about things that are going on, things that are happening. But, Patrick, is there anything going on in politics? It seems very dull this week.
Man, we had to dig deep to find news stories, Greg. I'm still trying to find content for the show today.
Right? There's nothing to talk about at all. My goodness, what a week. Since the Trump assassination attempt the week from last Saturday. It's just been crazy. And then leading up to this last weekend, we were hearing about like Wednesday or Thursday or even maybe even a little beforehand that a lot of people were saying Biden was going to drop out this following weekend, which would have been last weekend. And sure enough, he did. And boy, that was I'm gonna say real fast. My first instinct was I was very angry about it because what was really frustrating me about this is the fact that we spent a month, and it was about a month since the debates. We spent a month of the Democratic Party telling the world that Biden needs to leave, and to me, that's a month that should have been talking about points to get people excited for the election, to get people excited for our candidates. That is something that I was really very disappointed with. I felt like Biden was very much mistreated throughout all of this. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to go with it, but I still think that there was a lot that I didn't agree with there. But we hit Sunday, and Sunday Biden drops out of the race. And suddenly, once we start talking about Kamala and running and stuff, it suddenly felt to me like a brand new energy just kind of overtook. And we know that she is not the party nominee yet, but she certainly within a course of a week, and we're not even I don't even want to talk about the donations and the money that she raised and stuff in such a short period of time, but I find it very exciting, just the breath of fresh air. People seem to be wanting to get behind her. People are wanting to get some really, they're going to. It just seems like it re-energized the whole campaign. Patrick, do you see it that way?
I absolutely see it that way, and I agree with you that on one tangent from what you were talking about before, that I feel. And Matt will talk about messaging a lot. I feel the Democrats kind of didn't really know how to proceed, especially after the debate. They kind of, because they spent a lot of time, saying, "Oh, vote for me because I'm not Donald Trump," and that's not going to get people out to the polls. That's the strategy that ran with Clinton that obviously did not win that election in 2016. And I think in general it's just not very inspiring that it's not a. And Biden, it's not that he didn't try to toot his own accomplishments. It was kind of more, a lot of it was, democracy's on the line. Trump is, vote for me because I'm not Donald Trump. And I think that's just not a winning strategy.
I think that's a really interesting point. And I think I kind of probably was falling into that, being kind of like, and I think that's a good point on a couple levels, because it is like, I think a lot of us, if we could put a sandbag in that could, defeat Donald Trump, we would do that, because all we want is, we don't want Trump going on and becoming president again. With Kamala Harris now, we have a situation where we can get behind a lot of what she's saying. Like we can digest that, I think, a little bit more, and I feel like that makes it more of, like you said, it's not against, we're against Trump, but we just want whatever. It was like, okay, no, I really like her. I think that there's a lot of good things that are going to come from this election, and obviously we hope that she wins it. But even if she doesn't, I love the fact that she is running. I love the fact that there is a lot of people who are inspired by the choice of her running, because that's something that we need more positive figures in our lives. We need people, kids growing up. We need some positive people, and I get, what frustrated me the most about the whole Biden dropping out was, and if you watch any news station, everyone always says Biden takes forever to make a decision. He just does. That is how he operates. It took him a long time to decide to come back in for the 2024 race. It took him a long time to decide to come into the 2020 race. And the thing is, I was always under the impression that he was going to run for one term. Not that he ever solidly said this, but it just seemed like the smart thing to do. Run for one term, and you have this bright woman who is just amazing at so many things that she does, that you can move her along, groom her, if you will, so that the 2024 election could be hers. It's passing the baton. You get her visible for 4 years. You really do a lot with her. They did nothing with her, as far as I'm concerned, until Roe v. Wade was overturned and started to bring her more into the forefront. I find that she was misused for much of her term, and I also feel like, I was talking with somebody about this because I thought that would have been the deal when Kamala decided to be Joe's running mate, that there would have been like a succession plan. And the person I was talking to said, well, maybe she just isn't good enough, and they didn't think that she was good enough. And I don't agree with that. I think knowing how these things work, knowing how ego works, and I think Joe's decision, I'm on a first name basis, Patrick, with Joe Biden, I guess. But the thing with the Biden presidency, I think there's ego involved with him running a second term instead of passing it along and not really thinking through the fact, I'm going to be 86 by the time my term would end. I think that if I were to be a psychic here, I would say that probably more than likely there were probably some deals made, and they probably conveniently moved around them a little bit so that Joe could run again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on the ego issue, if you were eligible to run for president again, would you say, no, I don't think I'm going to do that? I think the vast majority of people would say, nah, I'm going to try one more time. And if it really, really gets bad, then I'll give up. But I think there's that. It's just, you're in power. You don't want to give up that power. It doesn't matter, I think, who you are. So I think that's part of why it was so hard to get him to say, no, I'm not going to do this. But I think there is personally for him, I struggled a long time to get to the presidency, and, now you're asking me to give it up. He's been in government for more than 50 years, ran unsuccessfully for president. He, kind of got the taste of the presidency when he was Obama's vice president, and now he's finally the president, and he's being asked to give it up. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying that's probably his mindset was, I finally get to the top of the mountain, and now you're asking me to leave?
100%. I don't disagree with any of that whatsoever. I mean, that's a whole different game, doing the work of president and whatever. So, I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous. So with that, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, I know everyone's been wondering, what has Patrick been up to? Let's talk a little bit about that. We have Randy West at 3:30. This is the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950. The progressive voice of AM 950. WCPT, 820 Heartland Signal, the Matt McNeil Show. Greg Bakun filling in on this Thursday. I hope everyone's having a great week. And, we talked a little bit about the weather. I'm a big fan of summer. So I know it's hot, but I like it. What I don't like is the cost of the energy bills when having to run the air conditioning and whatnot. But, it is what it is. I mean, if I don't like it, I should turn it off, and I don't want to do that. So we got Randy West coming up at 3:30. We got Robert Pilot coming on the 4 o'clock hour. I'm really looking forward to our conversation with him as well. And Patrick, you've been gone for a little bit. You came back this week, and it sounds like no one cared who was hosting while, up until this point that I got on. No one really cared to know what you were up to, and it hurts me. It hurts me. What were you up to?
Well, I'm glad someone is touched. I was in Colorado. I celebrated my birthday last week, so I went out to visit a friend of mine because she has the same birthday that I do, so we thought we'd get together for that. So I spent a few days in Aurora, which, if you're not familiar, is just outside of Denver. It's a pretty large city, but nonetheless, suburbs, maybe not everybody's forte, so I would say it's Denver. So spent a few days out there, had some really good food, just kind of hung out, enjoyed the time off, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool that there is. I mean, I've been to Colorado a number of times, but honestly, it's always been driving through it. Like, I'll go and when I went out to Las Vegas, I drove through Colorado, and I remember going, like, by the time I got through, like, to Denver, it was like in the middle of the night, and so I'm traversing like all the mountains and stuff in the middle of winter during the night. And if anyone's ever driven in those, or just even around like southern Arizona area over by Phoenix, those roads they curve. They are so they're very aggressive. Let's put it that way. And there's nothing wrong with that, except everyone who lives in the area knows how to drive those roads. I do not. So they're going 65 miles on these very curvy roads, and I'm going like 40. And I'm that person that I would be annoyed with if I was driving and I was stuck behind that person. And I apologize, but these roads are dangerous. Patrick, do you know what kind of roads I'm talking about? Did you go into those at all?
Absolutely. I have actually a fair bit of experience driving some of those passes, not in the winter time, only in the summertime. But I know absolutely what you're talking about. And they can be some of the coolest drives in North America, especially my favorite one in the southwest corner by the city of Durango is Highway 550, which is called the $1 Million Highway, that basically goes over 3 mountain passes back to back to back. And it's very harrowing. There's no guardrail on a lot of these roads because the DOT says it kind of gets in the way of snow removal. Yeah. And there's also some engineering challenges involved with putting guardrail in. So you kind of have a white line between you and about 800 feet of death. And it's kind of a scary thought, but it's very much worth it, and I love it.
I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with loving it, but I can agree with the 800 feet of death. And I don't know. I remember the first time I drove through Colorado, and it just looked like, the roads were a little wet. It was winter. It was February. Roads were a little wet and stuff, and didn't look like that they had snow there for a while based on how good the roads were. And we stopped and filled up for gas, and we were talking about it, and someone's like, "Yeah, you missed the blizzard." I'm like, missed the blizzard? And I'm like, "Yeah, there was a blizzard out here, and it dropped 10 inches of snow or something." And you would never know. I mean, it was just incredible that it looked like that there was nothing, and it just really was a great introduction to how quickly Denver removes that stuff, and they just don't let it slow them down. And we get a lot of snow, and I think we have really good snow removal here. So I'm not knocking anything, but out there, I was just really surprised that it didn't look like anything. But I also think, obviously, the temperature and stuff helps with that, too. Helps with some of that melting of the snow and stuff as well. But, that sounded like a fun time, Patrick. That sounded like it was, and like you said, much-needed rest, huh?
Absolutely. Glad to be back. I'm glad to be here with you, because you and we used to produce, or I shouldn't say, I would produce for you more frequently when you had your Sunday afternoon show. Yeah. But so it's been a while since you and I were in the studio together.
I know, right? You just can't stay up late enough for 10 p.m. to do the show. I mean, I get it. You need beauty sleep. I don't.
All right. My bedtime is 9:45 p.m. every night.
Right. I mean, you could always just do the show here and take the couch upstairs and and sleep, and no one would be the wiser. But no, it was. I used to do my show on weekends, Sundays, before moving to a nightly slot, and we used to talk quite a bit. But the paranormal stuff really isn't your hat anyway. So we would just exchange pleasantries.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Adam is absolutely the perfect guy for your show, and I'm really happy that he joined us and hangs out with you during the week, because as far as I understand it, he loves talking with you about the paranormal.
Oh, absolutely. He's weird like I am, 100%. And I just, we very much play off each other's weirdness. You have to be a little weird to do the show that we do, because it does talk a lot about concepts that a lot of people might be like, that's ridiculous. No way. That's just not a thing. And my stance on that, if I meet somebody who is just like, oh, I know you're into paranormal, and I've had this before. I know you're into paranormal, and I don't believe in any of that. That is totally fine. That is your right. I will not, it's not like a religion. I'm not going to try to convert you or anything. I will totally be like, I understand, and, that's fine. But I'll tell you the funny thing about that, and this is all I'm going to do for paranormal for the show, so don't worry. The funny thing is about that, though, is that every single time someone's like, just about every single time, somebody is like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. And you're like, okay, that's fine. And then there's this pause. And they're like, but there was that one time that, and then they'll go on and tell you one of the most amazing stories. For me, doing this for over 15 years, have never experienced anything like the way that they have. And they're just like, but I still don't believe. And you'll be like, all right, that seems like a pretty big deal. And then they will be like, and then there was this other time. And it's like, you might have had the most paranormal experience I've ever heard from anybody in my life. And every single time, that's how it goes. So if you have any experiences, come on my show. We're going to have open phone lines on Friday, Ghost Box Radio, Casual Friday. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, Randy West is going to join us. We're going to be talking about broadcasting, Price is Right, and his wonderful career. Stay tuned, everyone.
You've been waiting on it for so long, but just remember, be here.
The Matt McNeil Show. This is Greg Bakun filling in this Thursday and Friday. Very happy to have you all with us. Broadcasting from the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950, as well as WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. I am so excited right now. I'm not going to even lie here. I've been following Randy West for some time, actually. And for those who may not know who Randy West is, he is first and foremost a TV and radio announcer. He has an incredible background. He's been doing this for 35 years, but some may have heard his voice on The Price is Right, as he had done that for a year. He's also an author and speaker on broadcast history as well. His book that we're going to be talking a little bit about as well, TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. One of my favorite things to talk about is broadcast history. Randy, thank you so much. Welcome to the Matt McNeil Show.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much. Joy to be with you in the Twin Cities, which I always thought were Sodom and Gomorrah. But apparently I've been wrong all these years. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, and that's as long as I can help you to educate you on our fair cities, then it's a job well done. Here we are. And like I said, I've been following you for some time, and I don't mean in a creepy way. Okay, it's been somewhat creepy. Sometimes
behind the dark corner there. Yeah.
Do I look familiar to you? Anyway, so here we are. You've been doing this work for 35 years, and I mean, as a milestone like that, how does that feel? I mean, what's going through your mind now that you've been doing this for so long?
It's first of all, I don't know what happened 28 28 minutes ago, I think I was 30 years old. It just all moved so quickly. But I'll tell you, it's the craziest thing. I am thrilled every minute I get behind a microphone, even speaking with you, because when I was a small child, I'm talking 14 years old, teenager, I used to cut classes and go down to watch television shows tape at 30 Rock, NBC in New York. And I said, my God, if I could only live in this world. You know, when you watch TV at home, everybody on the other side of the screen seems happy. Singers, dancers, comedians. You know, everybody's having a great time. I want to be in that world. And when I saw that I could actually access the studio audience, well, I was just enthralled. And then it never even crossed my mind initially to ever dream about working in that industry. And a guy named Johnny Olson, who was the original announcer on The Price is Right, as well as many other shows. Yeah, Johnny saw my interest and passion and took a liking to me, put me in his warm-up act in the studio, and go years further, mentored me, taught me everything I needed to know to get into the business. Never gave me a job, but he gave me every tool in his very large and very respected toolbox. So every day I get a chance to, realize that at that age I had a dream of doing something, and now I get to do it.
And you get to do it, and you do it well. You know, it's interesting, and I'm gonna. I've been practicing this at home, and let's see if I really mess it up when I do this here. But the one thing, because I went back and I found on YouTube what said The Price is Right episode, Randy West edition episode. And I listened to it, and I thought to myself, you know, the funny thing is, Johnny Olson, Rod Roddy, is there some kind of special like voice that you try to do for Price is Right? Because it's always a sort of like almost like a Tarzan sort of like yell, but in a voicing. And I thought to myself, is that because there are like 300 screaming people in there, and you gotta cut through somehow with your voice?
You're right on multiple counts. First of all, that room is so hot that you have to eat the mic, as they say. You know, you have to get your face right in it and scream. And you cannot have, as an audio mixer, Dirk Scarretta, I think is the pronunciation of the name. He's now working on Family Feud, but he said to me, dude, I can't open your mic and Bob Barker's mic at the same time and not have one of you being drowned out. The crowd is so loud. So part of it is cutting through, breaking through. And the other part was remaining true to the show's origins. Millions of people watch that program and live by it every single day. And when Johnny Olson started at The Price is Right in 1972, he created the phrase, come on down. It wasn't something everybody was running around saying. If you're old enough to remember before 1972, people didn't go, hey, come on down. You know, and he went one step beyond just delivering it. He went to come on down.
Right.
Gave it that energy.
That is so amazing. And so like being a fan of the series, and I'm going to admit, and this isn't anything against Drew. It's just I don't watch it like I used to. I mean, I'm a big Bob Barker fan, and there's going to be a generation that's going to be a big Drew Carey fan over it. So it's just kind of how it goes. But I remember, like, I'd go look up on YouTube, like, what did the first episode of The Price is Right look like? How did it change over the years? Because I'm like you, I love broadcast history. I love all of that, and I just was like, you know, it hadn't changed a whole lot. It's a little subdued, more subdued than it ended up getting to. But boy, all that stuff was right there from the beginning.
Yeah, well, at the very beginning of the very first shows, people weren't yelling and screaming and hooting and howling. The audience was dressed up, you know, with ties and dresses on, and nobody screamed. Johnny Olson said, Mary McCarthy, stand up. He didn't say, come on down. Yeah. He said, stand up. 4 people stood up, and then he said, come on down. You're the first 4 contestants. So the legacy and the memories that people have of being home from school, you know, watching that show as a kid, has become a part of so many people's lives. To go back to your earlier question, Johnny created a template for this, and when they were looking to replace Johnny after his passing in 1985, they auditioned a lot of people, and Rod Roddy came to the top because a lot of his delivery is also in that tenor. It's time to press your luck.
Yeah.
Which was the show they auditioned to find a similar voice. And Rod was a friend of mine we both started in radio long before either of us were doing anything in television. And I was thrilled to be chosen to fill in for him during his illness and passing away. Yeah. And I realized that he was doing his best to maintain the continuity of the show. And I took a stance somewhere between his delivery and Johnny's, so the show would, feel continuous and without interruption, without abrupt change. It's like it's an honor. It's carrying forward a torch, a tradition that so many people respect and have great emotional, feelings for. So, mastering that, a new car, and that delivery and that sound, it's not what I sound like at all television shows that I've announced, which is dozens. Yeah. But it was appropriate there.
Like you, my whole life I've been fascinated by broadcast, just in general about how can I be listening to somebody from another state, or how tapes are delivered and how broadcasting works and the shows and everything else like that. Has that been with you your whole life as well? I mean, just from the start, like this whole industry is so interesting.
Well, yeah, watching TV as a kid, I mean, it was always fascinating to me to watch all these happy people doing something interesting, fun, juggling, singing, whatever they were doing. It was entertainment, far more entertaining than was going on in my living room. That's for sure. Yeah. So once I got the chance to go visit, I was fascinated. People would sit in the audience in the middle section so they could watch the show as if it were like a Broadway production. I would sit at one end of the room or the other, meaning the side aisles, off to the wings. To see, well, hey, what does that guy do? And here's Johnny Olson. Let me watch him while he reads. And he would hand me his old scripts and stuff like that, and put me into his game. So into the not the game show, but I mean his warm up and his presentation. So I was fascinated, as you say, with the nuts and bolts and how it comes together, and I still am. When somebody says we need a second take on that, Randy. Which is a whole new thing. Most game shows recorded directly to tape, and there was no editing. Right. These days, things are edited because the viewers are more sophisticated. We all have our own video cameras, and we can all see something that doesn't look right. Yeah. So now there's a lot of editing, and it's the nuts and bolts go right down to what was happening when we did the first take on this. What was the energy level of the audience? Where was the timbre of my voice so that we match, so you don't feel, an obvious edit. So there's a lot of strangeness to it. And I'll give you the most thing that amazes most people when the announcer is reading, about the new car or the toaster oven or whatever it is. You'll spend 6 days and 2 lonely nights roaming the beaches of San Juan, Puerto Rico, whatever the hell we're talking about. There's somebody screaming in your ear. That's the part that nobody gets to hear. There's the director who's, standby camera 2, ready music, cue announce, open curtain, change, sliding 3, take 4, camera 2, speed up, Randy. All this dialogue is going on in your head, which to most people and myself early on was a major distraction. But they're directing the show for you. And in some of those cases, those what we call fee plugs, those little commercial announcements for Lee Press-On Nails, beautify active hands instantly with Lee Press-On Nails. Those are timed. They're timed commercials. Yep. So they need to run a certain length, not more and not less. They paid for that time, but not more because the network only gives the production company so many seconds to do those promos with. So there's somebody in my head going 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, change. And you don't want to leave a lot of dead air where, you're finished with a copy of 2 and the audience is going, well, where did he go? And you certainly can't run over because now there's a hard cut there. So there's these little intricacies that I'm thrilled with because it's just more to know and more of a challenge. And working a live show with Bob Barker, live meaning live to tape, no stopping. Yep. Like 2-minute commercial with Bob Barker was 2 minutes, and nothing ever interrupted the flow unless some catastrophic event happened. So it's working without a net. If I screwed up, there's no budget, no time, no expectation, no provision for editing. If I said something wrong, I had to, like in radio, you kind of pick up the ball where you dropped it and then just hope that nobody noticed, Thankfully, I didn't have a lot of those baubles. I know you can count them on less than the fingers of a hand because I had been doing this for so many years.
Right.
But that energy of working without a net, it's sort of like a high wire act in the circus, and it just adds to the adrenaline.
And that
so I guess you can tell that I love the work.
I was going to say, because you have to love that. I mean, you have to love that to be wanting to do that. And, as someone, I love listening to people speak. So I listen to announcers such as yourself who you can hear the crispness and cleanness of every syllable being said. And yes, meanwhile, not giving away the fact that there is somebody in your ear counting you down and not trying to pace what they're saying, but being aware of it. And it just amazes me. I love it.
Well, I watch people, artists working with oils and canvas, and I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things. How do you tune a car? I don't know. So many things I don't understand. So I have the same respect for other people who have their own specialties in life. There's a lot of situations you can put me in, and I would fail miserably. But this is something I really understand, enjoy, and have reached some monicum of success with.
Absolutely. Your book, the most recent book that you've come out with, TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. When did that get published?
Well, it's about a year old now.
Okay.
And it came about because I wrote a biography of Johnny Olson. Because when Johnny passed away, his family gave me all the things he saved from a 58-year career. So among the boxes of Emmys and microphones and scripts was an autobiography he had planned to write. He had an outline, a couple of chapters. So I finished it as an homage, a way to return the favor. And the publisher came to me and said, you need to write another book. And I was like, I had no intention of writing even the first one.
Right.
But it kind of fell in my lap. I'm no writer. He said, well, you are, because this first book is selling. So go write something else. And that was what brought us to TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, Felonies, which is a compendium of outrageous stories, the things you at home have no idea what's going on in the studios as far as actors who are not getting along and fights and craziness and shows that are canceled and suddenly it's revived and the turmoils and the ins and outs and the roller coaster ride. And some of the stories are truly outrageous. So having spent decades on the sets of some of these shows, I've overheard, been party to, or had the opportunity to just talk at length with people who have watched the most amazing things. Jerry Lewis and Joan Rivers feuded until their lives were over. It was over her appearance on a telethon for muscular dystrophy. And Jerry was saying, without your money, these kids are going to die, or however he said it. She took great offense to it.
Randy?
And bawled him out backstage. In front
Randy,
of the kids.
I'm just going to quickly interrupt. We have a hard break to hit. Let's continue our conversation here after the break. We're on the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950 and WCPT.
I'm so glad that I got her to think of. She's fine as any Valentine.
The Matt McNeil Show. This is Greg Bakun filling in for Matt today and tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. Broadcasting on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. If you have a question for Randy, give us a call, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You can also put a comment into the comment section if you're watching us online right now. And, before we get back to your book, Randy, I wanted to ask you, first of all, did I see right that you were at the taping of the final Patch Sajak episode of The Wheel of Fortune?
Sure, absolutely. I try to show up at some of the memorable moments and events. Yeah.
How was the energy in there?
Well, it was fascinating. Vanna really stole the show in my mind, as much as we all love and respect Pat. We were ready for his Friday, final words, but it was Thursday the Thursday show, they'll all obviously tape on the same day, that blew me away because Vanna was like right into camera saying, I don't know how my life is going to change without Pat doing the show. We've been brothers, sisters, our kids have grown up together. We've traveled the world together on this show, and it's a relationship that's gone on for near 40 years, and it's full of memories. And she started to talk and tear up, and the audience was tearing up. And we had no expectation there'd be any kind of goodbye on the Thursday show, and there she was, opening her heart. You know, she's such a lovely lady. I've had the opportunity to work and see her over many years. She's always such a complete charmer. She's a lovely woman. But to see her so vulnerable and open was amazing on Thursday. On Friday, you know, Pat is far more subdued. He's less emotional. Mm-hmm. And his goodbye was more, you know, it's been a pleasure being here. You know, it was lovely and charming and elegant and professional and all those things, but it wasn't quite as, oh my God, I don't, you know, emotionally vulnerable.
I recall,
but it was a thrill to be in the studio to watch the end of an era, for sure.
I bet it was. And I remember from watching that he took like the last 3 minutes or so, if I'm not mistaken, doing his thing, saying his goodbyes. And I was curious, was that recorded at the end of the episode, or was that recorded beforehand? I'm curious about that.
Well, you're an educated viewer. Because indeed, they cleared the audience out. That's why you heard no applause or you know, distracting kind of sounds that you normally would in a live studio. He felt it would be more important to talk directly to the viewers. So it was recorded after the show where it belonged. You know, it was correct in time sequence, but he did it without an audience and straight to camera. And it was, I think he felt more emotional and more revealing that way.
I'm sure. We have only about 4 minutes left or so. It goes by so quickly, and I have so many questions. Your book, TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies, and I swear one of these times I'm going to say a fluke in a bad way with all the F's that you named your book. Thank you for that. How can folks get a hold of this? What's the best way?
It's at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. It's pretty much anywhere that you would buy books online. But my recommendation is you get it from me because I can autograph it to you. I can't go down to Amazon and start signing books.
No.
But I would love the opportunity to, you know, you buy it from me and I can say, hey, Greg, it's a thrill talking with you. Or Greg, I know your favorite shows are in these pages, whatever. So that would be tvrandywest.com. And then I can make it a more personal gift to you. tvrandywest.com. And
going there, you can also, if you want, you could buy Randy's other book, Johnny Olson, A Voice in Time. And honestly, I mean, it's important. I think it's very important what you're doing because you know, we move further and further away from Johnny's passing, which would have been what, in 1984, 80, something like
85.
that. 85. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you know, the idea that these are important people to us. So they paved the way for a lot, such as yourself and other great performers to do things. We don't want to lose sight of these people, and I find it interesting, and I'm excited. So many years after Johnny's passing, that so many people remember him so well. And I think that's such a great tribute. And you are keeping that torch alive as well.
Well, Johnny's story is fascinating for many reasons, including he was in television before there was television. He was a radio star at many shows over the radio networks. And when television was starting to be experimented with, I'm going back to the 1930s and early 40s, he was one of the people, the stars of radio, who took a train up to Schenectady, New York, where General Electric had their studio where they're doing research. Now, nobody had the chance to watch the show, but he was there when they were experimenting in how will television work. And he was the first host of a daytime entertainment show in the history of television networks. He was on the Dumont Network with a daily show called Rumpus Room. It was the first national daytime entertainment show. So his story, as in the book, and anyone who had the opportunity to know him, is part of the history of television. So as you say, it really shouldn't be lost.
No, it shouldn't. Now, as we're running out of time here, Randy, what are you working on? What is stuff that where can we hear your voice or see you now?
Well, you don't see me because I have a good face for voiceover, which is a joke. But I do some occasional acting, little roles in sitcoms and stuff. But for the most part, you hear my voice sometimes on Big Brother. Some of not the overall show, Welcome to Big Brother. It's more about the challenges. Okay, to housemates, now we're going to do the head of household challenge, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I get calls for all manner of, incidental, miscellaneous things. I'm not on a television show that's currently, in production on an ongoing basis because, frankly, there are fewer and fewer announcers. If you get past The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy, most shows do not have announcers. The host comes out and says hello, and there's no prizes to describe because because they're all cash shows these days. So the industry has changed a little bit, and that's fine. Everything changes.
Everything changes. Once again, the book is called TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. You can get it on randy-west.com. And you can also get it on Amazon, but you want that personal touch to it. I think that.
Yeah, let me give you that address properly. It's TV Randy West, all one word.
I'm seeing
TV Randy West.
Got it. It's showing up different for some reason on my browser. So thank you for the clarification on there. And I wish that we weren't running out of time. I have a lot of questions. I'm hoping that you'd consider coming back sometime and
absolutely
darkening my door. That would be fantastic. I really appreciate it. Once again, Randy West, the book is called TV Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, and Felonies. Randy, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Greg. Really enjoyed talking with you.
All righty. Take care, Randy. And we'll be back. We got the one and only Robert Pilot coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Matt McNeil Show. The Matt McNeil Show. This is Greg Bakun filling in for Matt today and tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. And any questions or anything you want to say, give us a call, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Patrick, what about that guest? How about Randy,
Oh, that was awesome. Come on down and check out the AM 950 website if you weren't able to catch Randy West with us. I'll have that up in just a couple minutes.
There's truly a Price is Right voice, though. It's like, come on down. It's just that sort of like I said, like the Tarzan yell, but like with words.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! So let's not end with talking to broadcast greats with just Randy. We got on with us another broadcast great. He does his show on AM 950 Monday through Friday. Native Roots Radio Network presents I'm Awake. That's Monday through Friday. That's at 5 to 6 every night. A fantastic program, a very necessary program. And I'd like to welcome on Mr. Robert Pilot. And Robert, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on. Always great to stop in before the show here. Haley's doing all the prep, and then all I have to do is roll out of bed and read her script. So I'm glad to be here. And, I just want to give you a quick shout out too. Love your show.
Oh, thank you.
And I love, AM 950 and the Twin Cities needs that kind of show. And, I've always talked to you about, I was huge Art Bell fan years ago, and I feel like you give the same vibe, and it's fun, it's exciting, and it's just awesome to have you on AM 950.
And I don't want to speak for you, Robert, but I feel like you probably feel the same way as like doing the show, whether it's today or doing the regular show. I never look at it. I've never looked at it as anything but a blessing. It's that it's never like, well, I just need to get through this and I can go to bed or whatever else. It's always I can't wait to talk about this. I can't believe I'm able to talk about this. How long have you been doing your radio show?
That's a great question. And we started, and I don't know, Greg, if you're familiar with, but we started with when Standing Rock was happening in the Dakotas.
That's
and
right,
pipelines. And Wendy and I would drive there and bring food, wood, coffee, and not hang around because we weren't planning on getting arrested and doing the things that were happening there. Even though we did get caught up in a lot of the actions there. But there wasn't really good information coming out. And, the more and more that I've done my show now in the 8th season, the more I realized how mass media is really not our friend. And we are blessed to have AM 950 here in the Twin Cities. And plus, my show is on Civic Media, so it's on another 20-some stations across Turtle Island and Wisconsin. And
Great.
We're blessed to talk about real things and not have people, advertisers be upset if we say certain things. And we're just bringing the truth. But it's been a really eye opener. I've always kind of known that, but now I just got to tell you a quick story. I was on the Lake Street Bridge. There were the youth. They were protesting Standing Rock, and they had permits and everything. And it was Lake Street Bridge, and there was I'm good at kind of counting crowds, and there was at least 1,000 on each side, from the St. Paul student side to the Minneapolis student side. And I saw the helicopter up there from a local TV station, and I went, "Wow, that's great! They're going to get a great shot of this." Blah blah blah. Well, I went and watched the news. They had half the crowd. And one of the halves, I think it was the St. Paul side. So they had 1,000 people instead of the good 2,000 that were there. And they also reported there were hundreds on the bridge protesting. And right then and there, I just was like, wow. This is really slanted and really lazy. And, years ago, the newspapers and all, were only making, the St. Paul paper especially was only making 5% profit, and they had to sell, and they sold, and now we don't have like the skilled writers and people. There's a lot more questions a lot of times when I read the newspaper.
I believe it. Now, when you started the show and you started to be able to tell what was really going on, giving actual facts and stuff, even though you were doing all the right things, were you getting a lot of pushback? And I don't necessarily mean by like the radio station or anything, but even by communities or anything like that, or was it very well embraced? Because I also feel like sometimes when you're trying to get out the truth, that people are so conditioned to just go with mainstream media, and I will admit I'm probably one of them, that you sometimes. It's like an uphill battle, because it's like I am actually trying to educate you. I'm trying to let you know what's really going on, but you're too busy watching cable news or something.
That's an interesting question. And I think, again, we talked about being, and I got to give Chad, the owner of AM 950, a big shout out. I would not have a show if it wasn't for, when I talk to advertisers, I say, you are talking to the person that makes the decisions. There's 6 corporations that own 95% of the airwaves, and right now you're talking to the owner right now, and so he can make things happen as an advertiser, but he's never talked about content for me. And I've never really had any. I'll have people, a lot of right wingers maybe say a few things on we're on StreamYard and YouTube and say things like that. But we really didn't have a big pushback, because I think we were more in the beginning, especially it was really focused on what was happening in Standing Rock. But it's really progressed to, just talking about Native stuff. And, we're only a small percentage of the people here now. And we need all the allies we can get. So a lot of it's education, and I'm just a conduit for all these great groups and people that are really doing stuff here on Turtle Island for our people. And so it's been a privilege, and I haven't really had a lot of pushback.
And you mentioned, being able to talk about Native stuff, and I can't but help think that the good that your show has done for the community. Do you have? I mean, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, because I also think that it's sort of a modest sort of thing for someone to say that to you. But at the same time, I mean, you have to have seen what your show does to your community, because of the positivity around it, and also the engagement and the people that you bring onto your show. It has to have such a great impact on the community.
Well, what's interesting, and I appreciate that, it does have an impact. And again, I'm a conduit, so it isn't really the Robert Pilot Show. It's Native Roots Radio, and we bring people in to tell their stories, to tell who they are, to talk about what's happening from their perspective. So it's really been a blessing, and it's been a big learning curve here for me too, because all tribes, it isn't a pan-Indian thing. All tribes are a lot different. Like, for instance, the Lakotas, pray and smudge off with cedar, and the Ho-Chunk, which I'm a tribal member and citizen of, we smudge off with flat cedar. So, I mean, we still smudge off, and there's differences. I'll tell you a quick story of my other job that I was in Washington, D.C., so it takes me all across the country, and doing the things I do for my other job. And I've had many times people come up to me and go, "Are you Robert Pilot? And you're on Native Roots Radio. I've seen your show. I've heard your show." And that's really good for a couple of reasons, that we're getting out there, and we are looking, we hit 500,000 people on last month on our Facebook Live, and we know by being on 28 stations across Turtle Island, we're hitting 200,000 easily weekly.
That is fantastic. And first of all, congratulations with that. That's absolutely fantastic. And I do want to say, I think, if you don't mind me saying so, and this isn't meant to be a big suck up session, but I think you do yourself a little bit of disservice by just calling yourself a conduit. The work that you, Wendy, and Haley do to make a cohesive and really well made program, that as you know, and you know very well, that's not an easy thing to do. So congratulations on that. First of all, you all deserve the success that is coming from the program. Robert, why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and take a break real fast and realign with what we want to talk about here for the last segment here. And if anyone has any questions, call in 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show. I'm filling in. I'm Greg Bakun, and we'll be back. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Greg Bakun filling in today and tomorrow for the program. Thank you very much for joining in. If you have something to say, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. And if you have anything, you're watching us online, put something in the comments. I have with me Robert Pilot, and very excited. Robert is the host of Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, airs on this station Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. So basically in about 45 minutes. And we're keeping you from the prep, and I don't really care about that. I'm happy to have you on, so it's very selfish.
Well, let's be clear with that. It's Haley's prep, and
Right.
and she's a great producer and lines up the guests and keeps the ball rolling. And it's just great to see young ones like that. She's my chujunk, which means niece in Ho-Chunk, and to see her really grow within the show. I've had in the last few years 3 awesome producers, and she's one of them. And I remember, having her work for me when Zoe Allen had to leave, and she said, "I will never be on the radio." And I went going, "Well, I kind of want a sidekick and need that, but I'll respect your wishes." And here it is over a year later, and she could definitely do the show by herself. And she did this last week too, where
nice.
It's like, "I'm coming on late. Should we do a best of?" And she goes, "Well, I can take the first half." And so those are the kind of growths we want to be able to help and foster in our community and in the radio community. You have to really give it away to keep it. And I'm 63, so I'm always looking for somebody that is going to take over. And it was, it's just great. And then Wendy, it's funny, I got to tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Wendy and I had a show on AM 950 called, we did the weekend Saturday show of Native Roots Radio. And then on Wednesdays, we did a show called Pilot's Progressive Party every Wednesday. And that was a blast too. That was not as Native centric, but it was definitely political. And we had a lot of fun doing that on AM 950. And again, we wouldn't have all these opportunities if it wasn't for somebody like Chad and the people that work at AM 950. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm just totally grateful to Chad and AM 950. And, Matt's been a really big cheerleader over the years of our show too. So I really appreciate Matt too.
Absolutely. And you know what I also like about your program, and you have a background in audio video. So I think it's very, very fun to see how polished when you listen to it on the radio, it sounds great, of course, but when you're watching the live stream, it's a very polished production as well. And I have a feeling that you wouldn't have had it any other way either.
Right. And what's really fun too is, we went during COVID and all that, we were transitioning to do the show from from our home before COVID, and we were lucky that, I got a Rodecaster Pro, and they have a different program at the studio, so we were able to do that. So, and that's made being on 5 days a week, as you know, because you're back and forth from home and in the studio with your show, that it's a game changer. And
that was the funny thing, Robert. I remember very vividly when I had the chance to go 5 nights, and I called you and we talked about it. And one thing, he was like, "Well, can you do it from home?" And at that point, we couldn't. Now we do every night. So it makes a huge difference. And I mean, not that this segment is let's throw a parade for AM 950, but it is like they did do a lot to help us out there and get the show that we wanted to get out there. Real fast, this week has been a very roller coaster of a week for politics in this election year. We've never seen anything like this. I don't even know what the question is, other than how are you feeling about everything that's been going on?
Well, it's interesting. We've kind of had something like this in '68 with Johnson, and then all hell broke loose because we had Johnson wasn't going to run for re-election, but that was months before what Joe Biden did. And Kennedy was in the race, and Minnesota Senator Eugene McCarthy was in the race going up against Johnson, which was a thing. And then Humphrey ended up getting, and the whole political Democrats were in upheaval, and there was protests out, and the Chicago 13 happened, and all those things that really made 1968 one of the worst years ever in this country's history, along with the Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King assassination. So I always remember that, but I was worried when I was, Biden all the way, but it was really worrisome. And then I think the proof's in the pudding. I mean, I talked to Haley, and I was just going, oh my God, she got over $100 million by regular people in 24 hours. And Haley said, I gave money. So the youth and the young ones are inspired, and that's really made me happy. And it's really made me happy about the contrast between Kamala and the orange one. And I can't wait until I see a debate and who she picks as a vice president. I really feel like we're going all the way, and it's really energized a lot of people all over the country, including myself, because I was worried the first 8 hours going, is this country ready for a woman and a woman of color? Mm-hmm. There's still so many underlying races going on there. But when I hear from people that I know that are voting Republican all the way, that are complaining about her, and I'm going, wow, she's probably the right thing. They're worried. And obviously Trump had to reevaluate everything for a week after that happened. And he was whining about that. And he picked a terrible vice president now too, because he thought it was a slam dunk. So it's going to be fun. And we just, what I talk about on our show is that we just have to keep talking about it and get our relatives out there to vote, because, Greg, a lot of people aren't junkies like me. I listen to the political junkies. I listen to Stephanie Miller in the morning, and and Tom Hartman here and things like that. Well, we got a group of people, Native Americans or whomever, that are working and are not paying attention, and really won't pay attention to the election until a month before. And we just got to stay on top of it and keep people excited, so we can drive them to the polls to vote in between, their jobs and their families and things. So we just have to stay engaged and positive. And even before Joe made his decision, we were trying to, but now it's a lot easier.
And tone is a big part of it, right? I mean, it's like you obviously we want to get the right information out there, but it's also like you don't want to be preaching, you don't want to be heavy-handed, but you have to be heavy-handed. There's a lot that makes it to me. It seems like you have to really find that right balance, because it's so easy to turn people off. It's that sort of like it seems that turnkey with how people are, and like you said, but we're still a little bit early. But it's like it's never too early to help people understand what's really going on out there.
Well, can you believe they put it in writing? Project 2025. That's
Right.
awesome what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be a Roe vote, there's going to be an anti-Trump vote. And, we outnumber them. And that's what I always talk about on Native Roots Radio. If we stay engaged, we outnumber them. We won the last election by 8 million and the previous election by 3 million. So Trump's really never won the popular vote. It's just these states.
Yep.
And, going to Milwaukee right after the convention and talking and firing up the Democrats there because Wisconsin is a purple state, and I can't believe that. All my life it's been a Democratic state, but they're so their districts are so messed up there, and their governor's finally been able to do something about that and change those districts so it isn't so gerrymandered.
No, absolutely. Not that you're a statistician. Are you at all aware of like how the breakdown is in the Native American community between say Democratic and Republican in terms of like what that breakout might be?
I've read stuff, but I think it's a lot different here in Minnesota because the laws here in Minnesota, for instance, have really, we have lawmakers in there educating and promoting Native issues. Mm-hmm. You have Red Lake, the first cannabis opening up there, and they're really working hard to do things. I think some of the richer tribes, which, we have in this state, a couple of them, I think some of those might lean Republican, but I think in a whole, and I got to tell everybody out here too, is that most Native Americans in this country, and I mean 99% of do not get money from casinos.
Right.
They're poor as hell.
Yep.
And so they lean more on the Democratic side if you can get them out to vote. And, a couple cycles ago, we got it was 9,000 people up in Leech Lake and Red Lake Reservation to vote for the first time with Rock the Vote Native style and also making voting a tradition. That is a big amount of number, especially if you're running for governor. And we really felt like that action really helped change a few elections in Minnesota, including really helping the governor and lieutenant governor become to win their election. So there's stuff like that happening all over the country. Arizona made Biden a president because of the Native vote. Wisconsin did. There's all these states where they really concentrate on the small population that made a big difference. And that's what we have to do is just to go back to our sisters and aunties and relations and take them and talk to them about how important it is to vote. And a lot of our old relatives were afraid to, or didn't know they could do it because, again, the history with Native Americans is that we weren't able to start voting until 1924. Mm. We weren't citizens of our own country, and I always joke, and when I was a junior in high school, we couldn't practice our own religion. In 1978, that law changed. And so there's a I don't think we're counted right either, because I think a lot of people don't want to be counted because they're afraid of what's happened to us in the past, whether it's taking away the children to boarding schools or just going to the doctor and become, sterilized and all these things that really happen to our people. So they're very apprehensive to join in these games, these reindeer games, but they have to now because so much is on the line. And I think once you become a voter, I mean, I've always voted since I was 19, in the Reagan-Carter first election, and I've never stopped voting. So if we can get the young ones to vote, they'll always vote.
That's fantastic. Who's on the show tonight? What's the show about?
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. State Senator Mary Kunesh is on tonight. She's usually our Friday guest. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Let me ask Haley. No. But I did know that. And she's on. And I think we have another guest on. But, I think she's the big guest. And Haley and I will have our discussions in the beginning and the end and talk about what's happening so much here on Turtle Island and things that people can join in. And we're here. We're still here. And I just want to say that they've tried to erase us, but we're still here.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, please tune in. We're about 29 minutes out from Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake. And once again, airs Monday through Friday on AM 950. Where else can we find it as well, Robert?
Well, we got Facebook Live. We got YouTube. So just look up Native Roots Radio, and you'll be able to find it on either of those. And also, we're on Civic Media, which is, I believe, 28 other stations in Wisconsin. And so you can catch us. We're on all the platforms, SoundCloud, iTunes, and all those other places. And it's interesting. And I know you've run into this. There's people listening to us that we have no idea that they're listening to us, and it's always warms our heart when people come up to us and go, I listened to your show, and you go, wow, really?
Right.
That's
totally.
awesome.
That's totally the case. Robert Pilot, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time, and it was great talking to you.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, and
thank you.
We're here at AM 950. I feel like we're brothers here at the station, and we're really lucky to have you, and really lucky to have Matt and the production crew there. We're truly blessed to be able to do this.
Likewise, it's blessed to have you with us, too. All righty, Robert, we'll talk later. We're going to go ahead, take a break, come back. I want to talk about the Secret Service a little bit and that incredibly strange hearing that happened this week. You're listening to the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. This is Greg Bakun, filling in for Matt today and tomorrow. I hope that you've been enjoying what you've been listening to, or hopefully that you found it that just at least let the time go by, whatever works. And you are more than welcome to call in 952-946-6205. You can also put a comment in the comment section if you're watching us online. Of course, I got to read this one. Carol says, great show, Greg. Well, you know what? That's how you get on the air. That's all I know. Yeah, I laugh. So a couple things here real fast. I really quickly want to say thank you to Gritty Gear. They have their sale, Christmas and July sale going on right now. Go to grittygearco.com. That's grittygearco.com. And those shirts that we had at Pride, Patrick, those were printed by Gritty Gear.
They were absolutely incredible shirts. Head on over, check out what they have to offer. They've got some great deals going on right now, too. Christmas and July sale. They'll make you look great. Head on over to Gritty Gear right now.
Right, and not to turn this into commercial hour, but I also want to do a shout out for Minuteman Press Uptown because we had all those banners at Pride too, and trust me, we didn't give them a whole lot of time to print all that stuff, and they did it flawlessly, high quality. It just looked beautiful. So I just wanted to thank them very much. I know that's way back in June, but boy, that was great. The Matt McNeil Show, we are talking about a lot of different things. Thank you to Robert Pilot for taking the time right before he was to go on the air to talk with us. It's always great. And at one point, him and I had talked about him guest hosting my show, and I'd love that at some point because I think he'd bring such an amazing perspective to it. One of the things I wanted to talk about, it just really annoyed me on a couple different levels. Patrick, I don't know if you had any time, because you probably just got back and you're doing all your stuff here. Those hearings with the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, and that hearing, that House congressional hearing about the assassination attempt on President Trump. Did you see any of that at all, or any highlights?
I did see a little bit of her being grilled. I did not watch a lot of it live, but yeah, there was definitely, understandably, a bipartisan concern for what happened, that pretty much everybody in unison was, this should not happen. This should just not happen. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter whether we like them or don't like them. This should never, ever happen.
And she really, boy, it's like if you ever watch the Simpsons and the gangster, one of the people on Fat Tony's team is like what Tight Lips, whatever his name is. That's what she was, and it wasn't in a good way. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know what goes into putting together and doing an investigation of this size. But as was pointed out many times during the hearing, that it's been 9 days since the assassination attempt, and she could not answer one question with anything really other than, well, this is somebody else that's handling this. We got to wait till this happens. We have to wait till that happens. And like I said, I'm not here to say how it should work, because I don't know how it should work, but it was really it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch her also be dismantled, but she wasn't helping herself at all. But Patrick, you talk about the bipartisanship of those hearings, and what really frustrated me about those, it's bipartisan, but some of the Republicans asking her questions would say stuff like, and how do we know there's going to be adequate security for our future president? And I hate that. And I would hate it if anyone on the Democratic side said the same thing as well. I mean, I just leave that out. It doesn't need to be there. It's just a little jabs that I just don't like. And I know I'm, out there, some of you would probably say, you're a snowflake because I don't like that sort of thing. Whatever. There is no place for that in the congressional hearing. And that was something that was very frustrating to hear, because multiple times I would hear that. And then Laura Brobert, she just, first of all, they could see, everyone could see that they had Miss Cheadle sort of like under fire. You could see that even though she wasn't cracking, it wasn't going well for her. Like, they're basically yelling at her, you need to resign. You need to, why are you still here? Literally, like, why are you still at this table? You should be gone. You are not the right person for this, which I don't disagree with. Because I really don't understand her strategy behind the answers that she gave, unless she just was pretty much done with her job. But the thing is, it's like Laura is just like, did you use any sort of encrypted app to communicate with the White House? No, I did not. Oh, so if I got a request in to look at your phone and we could check it, you'd be fine with that. Go for it. Well, I'm going to do that then. It's just like, come on. It's like I just hate that sort of intimidation. I don't, and I know that this is the adult world I'm living in. I understand that, but I don't like that. I just feel like that this is just another example of how we are just so far apart, and that everyone is working. There is no solution involved here, and we're all so separate. And I just don't like it. But this is the kind of the ghost box side of me coming out. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy around the whole assassination attempt. I'm not saying that anyone's side was trying to do something, trying to create anything out of it. But every aspect of this is just weird to me. Every aspect of this, there is just something that's just isn't right. And maybe it just simply comes down to the fact that all these agencies that were at that event in Pennsylvania, at that rally, that they had screwed up hugely with that building being open, the rooftop being open, which was basically just a line of sight to the president. I don't know, but boy, everything about it, there's stuff about that. Everything we hear about it, confuses me. It just adds more to the mystery. And as Robert and I were talking in the last segment, who do we even listen to anymore to get the right information? let alone on our beliefs and our political side, whatever else, and getting the right information. I want the right information for both sides. I want to be able to speak to people and do it in a way that I am well versed in what's happening and not just going off the headlines. And that seems to be harder and harder and harder to do, especially as we're a society which, and I'm definitely guilty of it, is that I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I'm just going off the headlines. And, there's people who post stuff about a candidate that did something, and they're just like, you got to look at this. This is horrible. This person's horrible. And you look at the actual article, and first of all, it's not as horrible as they think, but you look at the article, it was like 6 years ago, 8 years ago that it was published. And it's like, do you have anything more recent? Because we should probably be going off of something a little bit more recent than this to make any kind of decision or anything. So, I mean, I just, from the point almost immediately from the assassination attempt to Kimberly Cheadle's resignation from head of the Secret Service, just a lot of things to me, a lot of items around it don't make sense. And please don't take that as, I think there's the grassy knoll and all this stuff. I just want to say that I just find it a little off, a little confusing, and that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know if we're not getting information on, that's either not been found. There's been so mass confusion within the agencies that it hasn't come out. I don't know, but that is something that's been with me for the last couple of weeks, and I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. Patrick, does it seem all straightforward to you? Am I the only one that's weirded out by this?
No, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of that people who think there's a conspiracy about this are typically the people who think that there are conspiracies around most things that happen in our daily lives. I genuinely think this was just a crime of opportunity that a bunch of people messed up who should have known better. They did not do their jobs properly. They did not do the proper reconnaissance and securing the things that needed to be secure, that ended up in this sort of wild sequence of the planets aligning that allowed this kid to get on top of a roof and take a shot at Donald Trump. And and I'm not going to go too much into the shooter, but I really think that, he was a 20-year-old kid who probably learned mostly how to use his gun on YouTube, no real-world experience with it. That probably saved Donald Trump's life. Now, that's not to say that, I have plenty of sympathy for those who were killed and injured at the rally, which is extremely unfortunate and did not deserve to happen to anyone.
Nope.
But it's pretty clear this kid was not. This kid did not know what he was doing with that gun, because there are people who are trained snipers who basically said at that distance that's pretty much putting the gun right in someone's face, and he missed.
Right.
And so I think the fact that it was. I don't know how you can say it was a professional hit when it was pretty clear it was just some dumb kid who learned how to use his gun on the internet. I think that's, again, I'm not saying that that's no disrespect to anyone who was injured, because those are, very real traumas that have been inflicted. It's just, I think it's hard to say there's a conspiracy when it's just a dumb kid who had clearly no idea what he was doing with his weapon.
Absolutely. 952-946-6205. Let's squeeze in one more break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Joe Mauer and finish up the show. This Matt McNeil Show on Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950. I couldn't go without some kind of spooky music, right? Little Ghostbusters there. That's just how it goes. The Matt McNeil Show, Greg Bakun filling in. I will be here, well, obviously for the remainder of the show, but I'll be back tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring Bruce on. I know he was on Wednesday, and I just want to talk to him about some of the stuff going on, especially when it comes around financing of the donation financing for the Biden campaign, now moving to the Harris campaign, as well as just this whole thing about Republicans really getting out of joint over the fact that Biden has now dropped out, and they're giving the impression that it is something basically, for lack of a better term, illegal for the Democrats to do. And Bruce, being the political mind that he is, we're going to talk about that, and he'll be able to give us some real answers, which will be good. Tomorrow I'm also going to have on Char Savoy. You may have heard Char on such radio programs as Ghost Box Radio. We're going to be talking about her fair that's happening on Saturday and Sunday, Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair. That's going to be over Saturday and Sunday. That's over at the Doubletree by Hilton, Minneapolis Airport. And we're going to be talking about what's going on there. But also her daughter is going to join us, Nikki. Nikki has had quite the progress in helping make Minnesota a better place. She was able to get passed through our government Logan's Law. We're going to talk about what Logan's Law is and talk about the benefits and help that gives to people. So we just going to be doing that tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Did you, Patrick, have like some kind of like parade or something that Joe Mauer got inducted into the Hall of Fame? You must have been pretty thrilled with all that.
I was absolutely thrilled. It was actually, I was hoping to go out to Cooperstown when he got inducted.
I wondered, yeah.
I ended up not going, unfortunately, but that was my first reaction when I heard the news that he was going to get inducted, was I got to get my hotels, I got to start to plan my time off. And then I just decided that it just wasn't going to work out, unfortunately, but I was pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. And gosh, how long ago has it been since he retired from the Twins? Now, folks, I am not the world's foremost Twins expert, but, when there's notable things like this, someone had to remind me that Burt Blyleven is no longer part of the team. I mean, that's kind of how far out I am on it, but it's, everyone. I mean, Joe Mauer has always been such a favorite for everything. How long has it been, Patrick, since he retired?
He retired after the 2018 season. After you retire, you have to wait 5 years before you become eligible to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So he was actually inducted on the first ballot, which was really awesome, but actually kind of surprising for a lot of us as well.
Yeah, well, no, that's fantastic, and it's just good. It's just good to see that, and congratulations to Joe Mauer. I mean, that's fantastic. Now, I have not been to a Twins game probably. Joe Mauer was still playing when I was probably at my last Twins game at Target Field, which, it's nothing against the Twins or anything. It's just that I just don't go. I still haven't even been to U.S. Bank Stadium for a Vikings game, which is really odd for me. Normally I get one or so in a year, but since they built the new stadium, I just haven't been out there. And I think it might have something to do with the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of crowds.
No, I totally get that. You also have a good excuse to not go to the Twins games because you're kind of busy a lot of weeknights. So
I am kind of busy. I used to work over at Carmichael Lynch, located at basically kitty corner from Target Field. And when they do the day games, you just knew you don't go out. You leave it to the dare I say, no hurt intended, the amateurs who didn't know where to park in downtown, didn't know where to walk in downtown, but they were everywhere. And so you don't go on the skyways, you don't go anywhere. You bring in your lunch and you just kind of shelter in place until they all go home, basically.
The worst experiences I have leaving Twins games are those weekday afternoon games. I won't say I boycott them strictly, but I've learned my lesson pretty quick that you do not come to the weekday afternoon games. You will be waiting and waiting and waiting to get your car out of the ramp.
No kidding. I believe it. And you're going to probably park in the same ramp that I do. You're either in ramp A or ramp, or you could be ramp B or C. I normally was in ramp C and that filled up pretty well, too. How many games do you tend to go to?
I actually have a partial season ticket package. I have 20 vouchers, so depending on how many vouchers I share, usually somewhere around 15 games a year.
Nice. Now, as we wrap up here, Patrick, did I do all right today? Was it all right?
I think you did a lot better than I did.
Oh, stop it. Well, hopefully people will still want to check us out tomorrow. Like I said, we have Shar coming in, Bruce coming in, Nikki coming in. We have a lot to talk about, and it's been a lot of fun to have the privilege to sit in for Matt. Everyone, I hope you have a great night. Native Roots Radio, I'm Awake is up next. Everyone, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.